one question that comes with that, because you keep mentioning the executive center, and I think about a lot of the executives in business, uh, they don't seem to be so executive. I mean,
No,
they're right,
no,
and
they're
so
not.
right, so they're trying to make all these decisions, trying to guide and lead all these people, and they're completely not coming from their executive center.
Well,
So
let's look at the word government,
yes,
right? Government, you could perceive it as governmentus, one who can govern their mind.
yes.
But that's not what's in place. What's usually in place is the extremists that are amygdala driven, that are sensationalists, that tend to polarize and tell people what they want to hear, right? They
Mm.
tell the rich what they want to hear. I'm going to pay less taxes, and they go the poor. I'm going to make sure you get a better salary, and they're going to tell you what you want to hear to get voted, and then they're going to do what is necessary for them to keep getting voted. It's a game. So Machiavelli in The Prince did a beautiful job, and he summarized it. They still teach it in universities because of his knowledge,
Ah,
and they summarized, politics. And it's not necessarily, ideally you would have a wise individual that cares about people, but that's
mm.
not always the case. So we end up foolishly allow rhetorical persuasion by a politician to convince us, because we're gullible, that they're going to do something instead of holding them accountable. And so in the process of doing it, we create our own illusions, perpetuate the illusions of their leaders, and that perpetuates it. Rarely we get a real leader that we would probably hire, because the leader would hold us accountable, and we don't want that. We want pleasure without pain. That's what the average person wants. They don't want
Right.
accountability. But accountability is deferred gratification, is a balanced orientation, is where resilience and adaptability and greatness comes from. And very few people are willing to be accountable.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us more about your book. Is your book going to cover some of these things in your book about
Yes.
time?
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to do it. I'm gonna try to do it within 250 pages anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got thousands of pages on that field,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm gonna try to do a little bit simplified text for people. But I wrote a 1,000-page book on the psychology behind all the 1,000 illnesses, and I'm
yeah.
I'm gonna now try to put a little lighter version of that together for people.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you think about, let's say you talk about the executive center and people running companies, and they're responsible for maybe 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 employees, and they're being you know they're trying to run the company, but they're trying to juggle everything. What do you think? What is the way to literally let your executive center being in charge, but be in control of it, and not be reactive, not to live in the amygdala? How do you as
It's
a
it's
leader
how
navigate?
masterful you are. It's how masterful you are at dedicating to the highest priority and delegating the lower priorities. That's how efficient it is. I
Mm,
was just having lunch today, just before I came on, with
mm,
the CEO of International Coaching, which is a very high-end coaching system. It's the top CEOs in the world that are retired that are now coaching other CEOs of major companies. It's
mm.
a They charge like $4 million a year for their coaching services. And so I was chatting with the CEO of that, the founder of that. He's a very bright guy. And we were talking about that. How do you find a CEO that's really a CEO?
Mm, mm,
And how do you find that? And he said, it's not easy. And because people are worried about losing a job, or that's why, when Warren Buffett has the CEOs of the companies and in the 260 different subsidiaries that he leaves them alone because they're a high level functioning CEOs. That's why
mm.
people invested in them. But what's interesting is when you get a person who is absolutely inspired by what they're doing, loves what they're doing. It was Peter Lynch in One Up on Wall Street in the 90s. He's still around, as far as I know. And he basically said something that really had an impact on me in the 90s.
Mm.
He said, I go and do my technical and quantitative analysis on stocks, and I look for intrinsic value, and I look for quality companies, and then I get on a plane, usually a private jet, and I go to the headquarters of the companies that I'm thinking about investing in. And he says, and I walk around the main center, main flagship place. And then I'm looking for 6 things. I'm looking for people who are grateful for their job, loving what they do, inspired by the vision of the company, enthusiastically working, which is not excitement, but enthusiasm. It's different. They're not manic. They're enthused. They feel it's their calling to work there. They're certain about their skill because they're experts, and they're present while they do it. He says, if you got that, that company is executively governed. The people are allocated and engaged, and you can guarantee appreciation and value. That's so accurately stated. And that's wellness, and that's relationship wellness, and that's physical wellness, because people are loving what they do and are engaged like that. Their wellness quotient goes up, their sickness is decreased, they're needing for breaks. I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about 8 years ago. And this lady introduced me. She said, Dr. DeMartini, we'd like to interview and get your feedback on this. And I said, great. And she says, there's an article that just came out saying that the average employee needs a break every 45 minutes, a 15-minute break. So every hour they work for 45. He says, I'd like to have your feedback and what you think about all that. And I said, that's BS, absolute BS. And she goes, really? Why? And said, because when people are inspired by what they do, they don't even think about breaks. And when people are unengaged and uninspired, they can't wait to get away from what they're doing. They need a break. They're wanting a fix, sugar fix, coffee fix, a stimulant, because they're engaged. But when you're really engaged in something, you don't even know time. You're not even focused on it. You only take a break if you really got to pee or poo or eat. And then you sometimes you get a catheter and you get a porta potty and you get an IV in your place so you can continue to work doing what you love.
I love that.
So what I told her, I smashed the article, and I said, the article is interviewing people who are unengaged, uninspired by their job, and then making that. And if you do that and make that a standard, you're moving in the direction of a socialistic idea where people, giving them pleasure and immediate gratification is going to be better than actually doing something that's meaningful. But meaning always differentiates us from the animals, and it differentiates us and gives us fulfillment in life. And immediate gratification and a quick fix for a coffee break is not where meaning is. So I'm not promoting that. I'm not saying you can't take a break if you need to, if you drank too much, but a coffee stimulates you and then you sedate and crash. And then you got to do another coffee and it sedates. And anything that causes volatility is going to lower productivity in the long run. But a mission, an inspired mission, and people engage and really allocated properly for the job where they can't wait to get up and do it, and they're greater at it than anybody who's guiding them, that is going to guarantee to increase appreciation in the company.